keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on mymytv.com. Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
My Michigan TV is streaming everywhere on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and more smart TV apps. My Michigan TV is on your phone too. Take us with you wherever you go. Just search for My Michigan TV on your favorite app store or visit mymitv.com. All Michigan, streaming everywhere. My Michigan TV.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
What's happening around you? Hear about state events, businesses, and from the people behind them on the Megacast, an hour-long TV, radio, and streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on mymytv.com.
Listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today, we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from Jennifer Chambers at the Detroit News. Today is a hallowed day. 1 year ago, in a horrific act of violence, a student at Oxford High School opened fire on his classmates, his teachers, and his community. In total, 4 students perished, 6 others were injured, as well as an additional faculty member. Now the shooter is where he belongs, in a jail cell, having pled guilty to a bevy of charges, including terrorism and first-degree murder, and will potentially spend the rest of his life behind bars pending his sentencing. Unfortunately, many are not where they belong, here, with their families, with their friends, being kids. They won't get their license. They won't start driving on their own, won't be taking the ACT or SAT, getting their first job, graduating high school, finding love, experiencing the ups and downs of being young and emerging as your own independent person and in your adult life. I encourage you to take a look at this article from Jennifer Chambers. It's really a series of articles today highlighting those remarkable teens and how their lives continue to impact immensely the Oxford community, their friends, their family, and areas far and beyond the small city of Oxford. Today, let's remember to remember them. Directly quoted from this Detroit News article from Jennifer Chambers, let's take this moment to highlight the lives that these kids lived. Justin Schilling, the passage of time has not, quote, the passage of time has not made the pain of losing Justin Schilling any easier for his family. In some ways, it's worse, as the family celebrates birthdays, weddings, and other milestones without the charismatic, empathetic teen who, quote, lived life loud, end closed quote. Though his mother has made efforts to take back her power and move forward with her life, and his brother has returned to the school where the nightmare unfolded, grief still stops them in their tracks. Hannah St. Juliana, tired of waiting for the school district to take action on creating a permanent memorial at Oxford High School, the St. Juliana family is planning a colorful garden to celebrate the life of Hannah St. Juliana. But the family says Hannah's death must be remembered too, so that history does not repeat. Tate Meir, in the year since Tate Meir's death, his family built a foundation team in honor of the star athlete, pouring themselves into a peer-to-peer mentorship program that has helped hundreds of students, most of whom never knew Tate at all. And while running the foundation can be stressful and time-consuming, it's therapeutic too for the family and his friends and others involved in his life. It's keeping his legacy alive. We will have Trent Meir from 42 Strong, that organization, with us on an upcoming edition of the Megacast. Madison Baldwin. Madeline Johnson lost her best friend in Madison and the Oxford shooting, and her normal teenage life as well. But she and her peers have focused their grief into action to curb gun violence and advocate for expanded access to mental health resources, while forming strong networks of support along the way. We encourage you to go through this entire article. There are also additional articles with extensive information and extensive memorials for the 4 students lost a year ago, November 30th, 2021, in the shooting at Oxford High School. I highly encourage you today to take some time and learn more about these individuals and focus on the lives that they lived, rather than the actions of a horrific, troubled, mentally, let's say, unstable child that did not get the care that he probably needed and really was not treated responsibly, allegedly, by those in his life who are responsible for keeping him on the straight and narrow. We encourage you instead, let's focus on those lives that were lost, those lives that were impacted, and being supportive as a community for Oxford on this hallowed day. Also making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news pages, time from Teresa Baldus and Lily Altavina at the Detroit Free Press. This is an article that also relates to Oxford High School and including the day of the shooting 1 year ago. Ex-board members who have now since resigned from the Oxford Board of Education say that the shooter should have been sent home, but Oxford High School ignored its own policies. This is straight from this article. The morning, Ethan Crumbly drew a picture of a gun and blood on his math homework sheet and scrawled the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." He should have been sent home under the Oxford District's own threat assessment policy, only it was never used and no one was ever trained for it, according to two whistleblowers. They say that officials did not properly assess the situation and make the right decision, instead folding to the demands of the shooter's parents at the time, who refused to take him home after a second incident in 2 days. The day before that, having been researching ammo on his phone while in class. Two former school board members are those whistleblowers who spoke out Monday of this week, and what they allege were missteps by the district before the shooting was carried out last year on November 30th. They say no evidence that they were ever used, those policies, those safety policies in this case, as they were designed. They allege the district was the shooting was preventable had the district followed its own playbook. They maintain that Oxford school officials led the community to believe that they did everything right and something bad just still happened to go down. In a quote directly from former school board president Tim Donnelly, who has since resigned, quote, "This document changed everything from my perspective. There's no evidence that we ever used it as designed, even though since 2011, the policies and guidelines have been in our system," and close quote. The policy referred to as Policy 8400. It is listed on the Oxford Community School District's website. According to the Attorney General's office, this is not a surprise, as Attorney General Dana Nessel and her office have made repeated attempts to reach out to the school district and provide them assistance in their independent investigation to figure out what happened on November 30th, leading up to November 30th, 2021, what could have been prevented had they taken proper action, and what can be changed both at Oxford High School and other schools across Oakland County and around the state of Michigan in reviewing the mistakes made on that day and in the days leading up. Nessel's office said that they had reached out 3 times to offer to conduct an independent review of the events before, during, and after the Oxford shooting, but were turned down. On the other side, on the Oxford School District side of things, investigators are vowing transparency, saying, quote, we will not pull any punches. The district, of course, hired Guidepost Solutions, a security consulting firm, to look into this. And in a statement made Monday to the Free Press, Guidepost Solutions Executive Vice President Bradley Dzik said, quote, "Guidepost is aware of the allegations made today by former Oxford School Board members. A review of the district's security and threat assessment practices prior to, on, and after November 30th, 2021 and other related considerations shared today by the former Oxford School Board members is included in the scope of our independent investigation." Of course, this is, again, going from this article from Lily Altavina and Teresa Baldas at the Detroit Free Press. The threat assessment team was apparently too small also, according to the whistleblowers. According to courtroom testimony, hours before the November 30th shooting, the threat assessment team was much smaller than what the policy had called for. 2 officials met with the alleged shooter after his violent drawings were discovered by his math teacher, and they were later relieved of their duties after the day of the shooting and in the initial investigation into what went down on November 30th. Perhaps most troubling for the whistleblowers, according to this article, is how officials handled the alleged shooter on the day before the shooting, as we mentioned before, as he was researching ammunition on his cell phone while in class. They did leave voicemails for his mom, multiple voicemails, as they said, a voicemail for his mom, who never responded when they could have ordered him to be removed from the school. Late Monday, Oxford School Board President Dan Del Sandro urged the public to allow Guidepost's independent review process to go through and let them do some thorough research into the events before, during, and after the shooting at Oxford High School a year ago, saying, quote, "At Oxford Community Schools, the safety of our students and staff has remained our number one priority." And said that the third-party review, quote, "has since seen increased participation of key stakeholders. The review will help us all understand the facts and have transparency and accountability that we deserve." That full article is posted on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, so you can learn more information about what the whistleblowers have alleged were missteps made by the Oxford Community School District, including, but not limited to, officials at Oxford High School, how the incident on November 30th, 2021, that led to the murder of 4 students, the injury of 6 others, and the injury of a staff member as well, could have been prevented. A very important article as investigations into the Oxford High School shooting a year ago continue on this 1-year anniversary of that hallowed day. We have another article on there, but we are a little bit pressed for time. You can get more updates from Bridge, Michigan, and their coronavirus tracker as well today, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. Case numbers a little bit up, about 2%, but deaths in Michigan related to COVID-19 down 57%. And returning testing numbers also down 1%, up 1% positivity rate from a week ago, 12% this week versus 11% a week ago. All those headlines making news today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. And at the top, of course, keep up to date on COVID-19 by yourself with links to updated information from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Megacast. Up next, we're in the thick of the holiday season. Winter is just upon us. What can you do in your local community and in communities all across the state to participate in Pure Michigan this winter? Odie McKinley joins us next from Michigan Economic Development Corporation. This is the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Keith. To learn more about our program, find us on demand and more on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which of course oversees all things Pure Michigan, is Odie McKinley. Odie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Tyler. How you doing? Look at you all snazzied up, wearing a coat today. You make me feel underdressed.
I got to be warm. It's cold season here in Michigan. The studio gets cold in the winter, gets very hot in the summer. So I'm just adjusting. I'm adapting as the year goes on.
There you go. Good. You look good, sir.
Well, Odie, let's get right into it. It's a great time of the year to explore all things Michigan. We've talked about this ad nauseum in the past, but it's a time of the year too where people are getting ready for the holiday season, doing some shopping for their family, for holiday gifts, and getting ready to go out in the community and really engage in our local economy. And it's so important this time of the year as people are doing that to focus not only on what the gifts ideas that they're looking for their loved ones, but also supporting their local community. A great way to do that is to explore local businesses. What should people be really looking out for in terms of what they can find on the local level in their community and in other communities across the state as they're shopping this season?
Yeah, Tyler, you're right. As we kind of walk through this gift buying season, after Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, we walked through Cyber Monday. There's all sorts of propaganda out there to get people to kind of immerse themselves into this gift giving season. But we continue to remind people to shop local. Shop, eat, and stay in the community that you live or the community that you travel to. It's incredibly important, not only for the small businesses you're supporting, but the employees of those small businesses and also the community in which those small businesses reside. There's a statistic out there, something like 62 cents for every dollar spent at a small business stays in the community that the business is located. So it's an incredibly important economic factor for these small businesses across the state.
And especially this time of the year, how important is this time of the year in our small business community to make up for some of the parts of the year that are a little bit slower, especially as we transition between the end of the summer season and the end of the fall season and into the winter season, which I would assume for many businesses, maybe that aren't in resort areas or near these winter activities, might be a lot slower, especially in smaller communities in Michigan.
Well, you're right. There are a lot of communities throughout the state that are tourism dependent, and some of those communities are summer based, some of them are winter based, and that creates kind of these shoulder seasons where there aren't as many travelers coming to these small communities across the state. And so to be able to support the small businesses in those communities is incredibly important. These retail based companies, the holiday season is a bulk of their annual revenue. And so, it's just for us to support the communities and the businesses and the employees of Michigan businesses is something that we really urge people to think about, to focus on, and do. And also, I would be remiss not to mention our website, which is, the support local website, the Shop, Eat, Stay, which is michiganbusiness.org. There you go, right up on the screen, /support-local. And it just walks through opportunities, communities, shops, the purpose, the mission, and just to focus on supporting Michigan-based businesses.
We're joined by Odie McKinley on today's edition of the Megacast. Those resources and more provided by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation through their Pure Michigan campaign and others as well. And Odie, from your organization standpoint, from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, as much as it is a marketing organization that oversees marketing Michigan's travel and tourism industry, it's also an advocacy organization too. So what sort of discussions have been had, especially over the past year, as things have started to open back up to more of a normal situation with these businesses to be in the more modern era and adapt to even more of the changes that have been coming and continue to come following the bulk of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, you mentioned it. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation is really the state's lead marketing arm. And that's for business development, community development, and brand state image branding for Travel Michigan and the Pure Michigan advertising campaign. And clearly, the tourism industry was disproportionately impacted during and following the pandemic. And so those businesses have kind of reevaluated how they do business and to accommodate the parameters that were put in place at the peak of the pandemic, but then also consumer behavior has shifted a little bit too. And so businesses are adapting their business model to ensure that they are meeting the needs of the customer, meeting the needs of their employees, and meeting the need of their bottom line. And so as we go out to eat, as we do our holiday shopping, it's really, I can't stress it enough how important it is to support the small businesses and local businesses across the state.
MichiganBusiness.org is your place to go for more information on supporting local through this holiday season and all across the year. And Odie, for those small business owners that are looking to try to put their best foot forward, maybe get a leg up on some of the corporate competition or even other small business competition in their similar sectors in their local area, how can they utilize resources from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, especially this holiday season, to really have a strong finish to 2022?
Well, some of these small businesses that are holding events can put their events on our calendar at michigan.org. But ultimately what it comes down to is these businesses are trying to attract customers, and it's a competitive game, right? And so focusing on the customer, and again, focusing on the employees, which ultimately gives the customers a better experience, are some of the tactics these companies or businesses are using to try to differentiate themselves during this important buying season.
More information, again, can be found michiganbusiness.org, and of course travel information and tourism information across the state at michigan.org. Odie, another minute or two with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that we should be focusing on at this time, especially as we're looking to support our small businesses as we approach the end of 2022?
Just to reiterate exactly what you said, keep small businesses at the forefront of your decision-making process, and the impact that a single purchase can have is truly amazing when you look at that. If everybody were to make a local purchase as opposed to an online purchase or a big box shop, has a ripple effect across the state's economy. But again, most importantly, it has that impact on that small business. So as we get into the holiday season, just remind everybody to, again, support businesses in your community, but also be kind. Be kind. It's the season.
Yeah, tough, busy season for these small businesses, especially in the retail sector as well. So we appreciate your time, Odie. Thanks for joining us today.
Tyler, it's always a pleasure. Look forward to our next conversation.
Yes, me as well. More information can be found michiganbusiness.org, and of course your trip begins at michigan.org. We'll take a break on the Megacast. Coming up next, plenty to talk about in the health realm here in the state of Michigan. COVID-19 still a factor, as well as the seasonal flu and RSV. We've heard a lot about that in relation especially to keeping our kids safe this season. Dr. Russell Faust, the medical director at the Oakland County Health Division, will join us next to talk about all those topics and more. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Keefe. Action-packed show today. We'll continue on as swiftly as possible. Joining us now on the Megacast is Dr. Russell Faust. He is the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Dr. Faust, thanks for being with us today.
Good to see you again, Tyler. Thanks for letting me provide an update on flu, RSV, and COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting time, I would assume, for public health officials, as we have these three unique but also somewhat similar viruses, especially between COVID-19 and the seasonal flu, and how they spread in our community, and having all three of those really be going around at the same time. Let's start with COVID-19. Where are we at in Oakland County? We know that from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, case numbers have been on a slight rise, same with testing numbers, but deaths have been down, at least over the last week, quite significantly. What's the status in Oakland County?
I know we're all tired of hearing about COVID, so I won't spend a lot of time there, but let me just say that BQ1 and BQ1.1 have taken over from BA5 as the dominant strains. This simply means that the BQ strains are better at transmission. They're more infectious. But despite those strains being better at transmission, hospitalizations and deaths have remained flat for the past 4 weeks. But this is no time to relax. COVID is not gone. According to the CDC, on average, 300 Americans die and 3,400 are hospitalized with COVID-19 every day. And Americans are not as well vaccinated or boosted as we see in other countries. So that remains a concern.
And on the seasonal flu front, the fear coming out of the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic, both last year and especially this year, has been more interaction between the community, maybe a little bit less vigilance on the community's part for the spread of these viruses, and especially that people may be a little more lax in their efforts to be vaccinated against the seasonal flu. How is that having an impact at this time on Oakland County, or at the very least, what is the expectation for the severity of this flu season?
Well, flu activity has started early this year and is elevated across the United States. Hospitalizations are highest in adults age 65 and older, followed by children younger than 5 years. But flu hospitalization rates right now are higher than at this time of year during every flu season since 2010. So we do encourage folks to get their flu shot. It is never too late.
And in terms of that flu shot, what are the similarities between that and vaccination from something like COVID-19 or other viruses that we see spreading throughout our community? Because there seems to always be that crowd in the community that says, well, I don't need to get my flu shot. I got it last year. I got it a couple of years ago. I never get the flu. So why should people seriously consider getting their flu vaccine every year, and especially in this season?
Yeah, well, this season, now that we've been masked and distancing for a couple of years, folks, let's say the immune systems are a little bit behind. And so, the recommendation is for the flu shot, specifically everyone 6 months and older should get the shot, especially those with chronic medical conditions like heart disease and diabetes. But so far, only 1 in 3 children in the U.S. have received this season's flu shot, and only 1 in 3 pregnant women have received this season's flu shot. So that's certainly a concern.
More information can be found on oakgov.com. You can go to the Oakland County Health Division's direct COVID-19 website from our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. Link at the top of the page. Just click on what says Oakland County. That will take you directly to their COVID-19 specific webpage. Dr. Russell Faust is with us on today's edition of the Megacast, the medical director at the Oakland County Health Division. We've heard a lot also this season, especially over the last really month or 2 months, about RSV, particularly how this particular virus is affecting our kids, especially young kids, and has been quite severe and quite dangerous in many cases. Give us some background on RSV and also why it particularly is affecting the younger population.
Well, RSV activity does remain high, but varies across the U.S. by region. And for example, RSV or respiratory syncytial virus positive tests are decreasing in the South and Southeast right now, beginning to plateau here in the Midwest, including Oakland County. So we're actually currently at about the same level for this time of year as we were in 2019, so pre-pandemic. Let's talk about RSV hospitalizations, which is what we've been hearing about for children. So children aged 4 years and younger have the highest RSV-associated hospitalization rates. It's usually the leading cause of hospitalization among children under 1 year in the US, so that's not unusual. And in fact, nearly all, or 97% of children, are infected with RSV by age 2. Overall, 2 to 3% of all infants will be hospitalized with RSV. The issue right now is that women who were pregnant during the last couple of years, when everybody was masked and distancing, normally would have been infected with RSV. For adults, it's often not a big deal. It's often asymptomatic, or like a cold, a common cold. They would have passed on antibodies or passive immunity across the placenta to their developing babies. And those infants would have been somewhat immune to RSV. We didn't really have that for the last couple of years. And for a couple of years, children were either schooling at home, or wearing masks and distancing at school. So we've had that release. Everybody's darn tired of COVID. I get that. And we're all tired of COVID. But as people go back to work, go back to colleges, go back to school, they're bringing home RSV potentially and infecting those younger children. And so we have 100 pediatric beds in Oakland County, and 75 of them are currently occupied, not all with RSV, but many with RSV. So that is a problem. We've talked about the flu shot. We've talked about COVID vaccination. There is no vaccine for RSV yet. It's promised for next year. So we really should talk about prevention, and note that the same preventive measures work for all respiratory viruses, influenza, COVID-19. So a couple things: stay home if you're sick, avoid others who are sick, cover your coughs and sneezes, wash your hands frequently for at least 20 seconds with soap and water, stay up to date on all other recommended vaccines, and when in doubt, wear a mask. We know that masks work.
And on all that, those are proven to be rock solid or preventative measures. Not 100%, nothing really is, but it's the best you can do to prevent the spread of these kinds of viruses. But in the case of parents in particular, it's tough for them to avoid these sort of interactions with their kids, and they're going to be at least at somewhat of a risk, even if they are taking all these precautions in their lives, both around the children and around other people. So for parents especially, Dr. Faust, what should they be focusing on? What should they be looking out for in terms of symptoms of developing RSV in their kids, to get them that treatment as early as possible to prevent severe symptoms and outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about when to seek medical care. That's what we're talking about. For children, any trouble breathing, fast, rapid breathing, retractions, seeing the ribs pull in infants and children when they're inhaling, blue or gray face or lips, chest pain, severe muscle pain, where for COVID, some kids may have severe muscle pain and refuse to walk. For any illness in little ones, dehydration, no urine production over 8 hours, no tears when crying, any seizure, fever above 104 degrees Fahrenheit for most children, or for infants younger than 12 weeks old, any fever. Those are the things to look out for and get your child seen.
More information can be found on the Oakland County Health Division's website. Go to our website, civiccentertv.com. On our local news page, you can click on the Oakland County Health Division link there. It'll take you to the COVID-19 page. We can also navigate directly through their area of the Oakland County website to find more information on RSV, COVID-19, the seasonal flu, and more health-related issues in Oakland County. For more information from the CDC on RSV, go to cdc.gov/RSV, cdc.gov/RSV. And this is not just something that affects kids. It can affect others as well. So in terms of what people should be on the lookout for, and Dr. Faust, in delineating whether it's RSV, maybe the seasonal flu, or COVID-19, are there certain symptoms that they can look out for that would indicate it's more along the lines of RSV? Again, especially if they have kids in the home and they may be transmitting this to their kids in those cases.
You know, despite the fact that we're seeing so many pediatric cases right now in our emergency departments and urgent cares and being hospitalized, that isn't really the age group that's at greatest risk from RSV. So it's those who are 65 and older who have other chronic ailments. And the things to look out for, again, are trouble breathing, pain or pressure in the chest, any elderly person with new onset confusion and they're struggling, they're a little bit ill, inability to awaken or stay awake, and again, pale, gray, blue-colored skin, lips, or nail beds. And I do want to point out, I appreciate you calling attention to our oakgov.com website, but also I should provide the nurse on-call line available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, 1-800-848-5533 for anybody's questions.
More information also on the direct link, oakgov.com/health, oakgov.com/health. And it will also provide information on the nurse on call hotline, COVID-19 boosters and flu shot clinics, COVID-19 vaccination, preventative steps you can take. All that information can be found on the Oakland County Health Division's website, oakgov.com/health. Dr. Faust, a few more minutes with you today before we'll say goodbye and move on with today's program. Anything else that we should be keeping aware of at this time in Oakland County in terms of health care related issues?
No, I think the next time we chat, we should maybe talk about polio a little bit. But right now, I'd like to re-emphasize, if you're sick, stay home. Stay away from others who are sick. Cover your coughs and sneezes, wash your hands frequently, stay up to date on the recommended vaccines. You know, a recent study has shown that regardless of the kind of variant, which variant is going through a country, the country's vaccination status is the most important factor for the outcome. So let's get everybody vaccinated. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide these updates, Tyler.
Yeah, always glad to have you on to give us the updates, how it affects directly Oakland County, and some more context as well for the greater community here in Michigan and across the U.S. Dr. Faust, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well. Oakgov.com/health is the website for more information on COVID-19, seasonal influenza, as well as RSV. You can also follow them on social media, on Twitter at Public Health OC, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Public Health OC as well. Again, the website, oakgov.com/health. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, plenty going on as well in Michigan politics, and we'll talk with Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, where he also serves as a professor of political science. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12th, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28th, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
I'm feeling good. Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program, keep up to date with all of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming outlets, and find our full shows and each individual interview on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast, civiccentertv.com/megacast for all of that information. Joining us now on the program, as he does each and every week on Wednesday, is Dave Dulio from Oakland University. He is the professor of political science as well as the director of the Center for Civic Engagement on campus at OU. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, good morning, Tyler.
Good to have you on with us. Let's begin with what's happening in the Michigan GOP. Obviously, we've talked about this several times before. Following the results of the 2022 election, a lot to consider for the Michigan GOP, and at the top of their list right now for their immediate considerations is their leadership for the future. We've had plenty of people already throwing their hats into the ring for potentially being the chairperson of the Michigan GOP, including candidates that lost in this election. Certainly Matthew DePerno was one of the first to put his names in the ring. We've heard rumblings potentially Tudor Dixon. Now we're hearing Christina Caramo, and even some blasts from the recent past a little bit. Pete Hoekstra throwing his name in the ring as well this week. What's the status of that race, and just how important is that decision and the Michigan GOP for the future of the party here in what's now a swing state?
Well, it may be a bit overstated, but the status of that race is kind of chaotic. We're in a spot where the different potential candidates are maybe feeling their way through the initial phases of either a consideration for running when it comes to folks like Tudor Dixon, or making that announcement and then trying to build support. If we're talking about folks like Matt DePerno or Christina Caramo, or as you mentioned, Pete Hoekstra. And then, it'll sort of die down. The public aspect of it will die down for a couple months and really start to ratchet up in February of 2023, when the Republicans will gather at a state convention to choose their leadership for the next few years. And it's really important, right? I mean, the state party chair guides the direction of the party. The state party chair has obvious influence over how resources are deployed and spent. And moving into a presidential year where Michigan is going to have a really important role in the general election, but also some movement yesterday appears that Michigan may be moving its primary from early 2024 to even earlier in 2024, from March to February, which would put Michigan in the really early stages of the presidential primary season, and the state party chair would have a big role in that as well.
And it's such a key race too, because this is going to set the tone in Michigan, as you said, for the next 2 years, heading into a critical general election year, presidential election year in 2024. And so for those that are within the party, what are their major considerations, or what will predictably be their major considerations in making this decision? Because you do have, much like you have in many other places in the US, kind of that, do we go the Trump camp way? Do we go somewhere that's Trump-esque but not necessarily in his camp? Or do we go more traditional, or so to speak, the Rhino route with our leadership and maybe back to some tradition?
Yeah, I think that really describes it pretty well. The Republicans are at a crossroads, and they have to figure out which path are they going to take. Frankly, I think that they've been at this crossroads for a couple of years now, and it seems there's evidence on both sides, right? That it's kind of been mixed over the last 2 years. Maybe they've got we could think about it as they've got a foot on each path at the crossroads here. But they're going to have to figure it out. And I think races like the one that we're going to see for state party chair could really go a long way in telling us what the Republican Party is going to look like, certainly here in Michigan, over the next several years, right? I mean, if the race turns out to be one that say Matt DePerno wins, right? That means something incredibly different than if Pete Hoekstra wins. And the direction of the party will be shaped in some aspects, not totally, because the fact is that the state party apparatus, while it has resources and influence, it doesn't do the kind of candidate recruitment that the state party or the national party did decades ago, right? We have this system where candidates self-select into running for office. certainly, and we've seen it in previous cycles where the state party could put their thumb on the scale a bit, maybe in a primary, to try to push one of their preferred candidates across the primary finish line. But I think you're going to see a real battle because of the importance of the control of the levers of power in the Michigan GOP.
Going to the national level, Dave, of course, in the 2022 election, the Democrats losing control of the House of Representatives. And with that, Nancy Pelosi, the longtime Speaker of the House, a Democrat from California, has announced that she will no longer be pursuing high leadership positions in the Democratic Party going forward. How does that change in leadership in the Democratic Party affect them on a national level? And what really are they looking for right now in terms of putting the right person, some new blood in that sort of a leadership role as they set the tone as well for 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, I think it really is about new blood and new ideas and maybe even something as simple as a new voice, right? Where Nancy Pelosi has been the spokesperson, the main spokesperson for House Democrats for years and years and years, right? And now it looks like it's going to be somebody named Hakeem Jeffries from New York, who is, Nancy Pelosi's got her progressive credentials, no doubt, right? But she was also, in some respects, a pragmatist, and would sort of work the House and the rules and the legislative process in a way that got her to where she wanted to be, right? And was it's less of importance in the House than it is the Senate, but mastering that parliamentary procedure, mastering the schedule and the rules of the House to get the outcome that you're looking for. We'll see if Hakeem Jeffries can have that influence. Of course, it's much less when they're in the minority, because the House is so much different than, say, the Senate, where the minority party can really have an impact on legislative outcomes. In the House, the job of the minority is basically show up, get your butt kicked, and collect a paycheck, right? Because it is a pure majoritarian institution, where if Kevin McCarthy, as Speaker of the House, can keep his Republicans together, his small majority of Republicans together, they can do whatever they want, right? They can pass whatever they want. But with divided government, with the Democrats in control of the Senate still, and certainly in the White House, that the legislative piece of it is probably not going to mean a whole lot. The real difference, I think, to look forward into 2023 is the investigations and the oversight that congressional Republicans will be able to launch into the Biden administration. And even they've already said they're going to look into Hunter Biden and his laptop and other business dealings. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, expect a lot of very, very hard changes in the House of Representatives. A quick turn to the right come January when the Republicans take power in the House of Representatives, the Democrats retaining power in the Senate after this election. We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast, professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as their director for the Center for Civic Engagement. More information can be found on the Center for Civic Engagement, their programs and discussions at oakland.edu/CCE, oakland.edu/CCE. And Dave, recently making some controversy, a meeting at Mar-a-Lago, a dinner between Donald Trump and Kanye West, who's also had his fair share of controversy in the news of late. But what really made some sparks fly in the news cycle about that particular meeting was the involvement of neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. And there's been plenty of reports from all different angles on this, of what went on at that dinner, whether or not Donald Trump knew that this individual was going to be coming alongside Kanye West to that dinner. Regardless, it's a lot of controversy that maybe is not quite what Donald Trump wants to be having in his camp at this particular time, as the GOP is looking at other candidates and whether or not Donald Trump is the future of that party. How does an incident like this affect Donald Trump and where he currently stands in the GOP in terms of his leadership position and his prospects for 2024?
Well, I think I would answer it this way, right? It doesn't help him at all, right? And it's another piece of evidence, right? That folks who want to dump Trump from the GOP can point to and say, look, this is another example of whether it's poor judgment or the wrong system of beliefs or whatever it might be, right? That gives them another argument to say to those who have influence, hey, look, we got to move on, right? This guy's going to hurt us. He's going to be a drag on the party. He's going to be a drag on the congressional candidates or the statewide candidates in across the nation in individual states. So I think that it's just another misstep from the former president, and one that doesn't help him. It's going to give ammunition to his primary rivals, come 2024, and it's going to be something that's going to be tough to get over, I think, for him.
He's been able to dig his way out of plenty of different gaffes and issues in the past in running for leadership position in the GOP as well as at the national level in his first run for president. The question is, can he do that again, or is this and other incidents that may or may not come going forward one step too far? We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast. Dave, a couple more minutes with you before we'll have to wrap things up today. I want to give you a chance if there's anything going on coming up or things in the works that you'd like to discuss at the Center for Civic Engagement.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Tyler. And we'll take a little hiatus here as we enter the holiday season, and as we come back in January, that's when I'll have a few more details that I can share about things we've got irons in the fire, if you will.
Well, we appreciate you joining us as you do every week to talk about what's going on in Michigan politics. Always something moving in the state of Michigan at the national level that will affect us here in the Great Lakes State. Dave, thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
And keep up to date with the Oakland University Center for Civic Engagement on their website, oakland.edu/CCE, and check out all the things that they'll have coming up after the holiday season as they re-engage in 2023 as we approach a very important year leading up to the 2024 election cycle. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast, which is just a little bit under 2 minutes left in today's program. I want to give you another opportunity to explore all of our resources online on civiccentertv.com. Head over to our local news page for up-to-date information on COVID-19 and other public health info from the local Oakland County Health Division statewide, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention at the national level. You can also keep up to date on everything making headlines on the COVID-19 front and beyond in the headlines today at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Plenty of information there and a great article and set of articles from Jennifer Chambers at the Detroit News highlighting the lives of the four students lost at Oxford High School in the shooting 1 year ago, November 30th, 2021. I highly encourage you to read through all of those materials today as you remember the lives lost on November 30th, and of course, all the lives that continue to be so severely impacted by that tragedy. We will be talking with Trent Meir from 42 Strong, a nonprofit organization that was developed in the memory of Tate Meir, one of the students lost in the Oxford High School shooting. He'll be with us on the program tomorrow, so you'll want to tune in for that. Learn more about this organization that's helping to continue Tate's legacy and his impact on the community in Oxford and at Oxford High School, and from plenty of other kids outside of the Oxford community as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast, all the information you need on all of our partnering stations, and to find our full shows and each individual interview on demand in case you can't join us Monday through Friday live from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. across our network and live to tape throughout the afternoons, weekends, and evenings for replays. That's it for today's edition of the Megacast. We'll return soon with a new episode.